Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 285. A ton to do today. A lot going on. Bill Belichick is the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heel football team. We are off a third straight winning week, well above 500 in the gambling show. 11-4 the last 3 weeks. Really feeling hitting our stride. Danny Parkins, arrogant ass. You had a losing week. Only one game behind him on the TV picks, which have been... So here's how we do the gambling show. Every Thursday morning, I pick my 5 bets for the weekend. Sometimes there's a Thursday night football game involved in those. There might be one this week. And then by Friday afternoon, with more injury information, more weather information, more time to marinate, among those 5, I pick my 3 favorite. And so I'm 54%-ish on the 5 picks every week on this show, 61% on the 3 picks that we do every Friday on First Things First. So that's going great. A ton to do, so let's get right into it. Here's what missed the cut. The Bills ownership group has added Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady, and Damonza, I'm going to send you, do not read this text on the air, okay? But I am going to, you're going to be able to tell from the initials who this text is to, and then read what I wrote, read the very top, what I wrote, I can send you a screenshot, and then a couple replies later. Here's why. I might be getting involved in, obviously not the NFL, I don't have money like that, but with a sports ownership group. Might be being connected by dear friend. Again, I want to be a little cagey about it, but you saw that?
I
got that response this morning. Now, I sent the initial inquiry. I looked, I think October 31st, but it's a busy man I was reaching out to. I got the response this morning to it. Doesn't matter. It's on the Peloton working out. It's like, I can connect you with the people. So,
yes, sir. All right.
That would be pretty sick, right? So we'll talk more about that. I apologize. I know that's annoying for the audience, but hopefully there'll be a cool payoff. In like 6 months, we can play this clip and be like, hey, remember that thing I was talking about? Well, this is what it was. Also, Xavier Legette is getting shamed for eating raccoons. Listen, Xavier Legette is country. And I'm not country. However, especially on your side of the family, Damonza, there's a lot of country. And so I don't think that is. What'd you say?
I said I'm pretty sure I've had raccoon before. Like way.
You think so?
Day, yeah, 1,000%.
Like when
unless Granddaddy was lying to me. But yeah.
Well, he might have been lying to you. I don't know.
Exactly.
But
it's possible. He told me.
But certainly your bloodline has. Like there's we don't have to go far into the generational background. I think it's on the board. I maybe your mother, certainly your grandparents. And so I mean, listen, if you're southern country folks, you're going to eat, Shannon talks about this all the time. Like, so I actually don't find that as odd as other people find it. And Aaron Rodgers, some stupid alien thing. I don't really care about it. All right, let's get to the shocking news. And before we even get to it, I want to shout out Ollie Connolly and InsideCarolina.com, who had this story nuts to bolts days ahead of everyone. And I was a little annoyed yesterday because they had it a week ago that it was happening. They had it yesterday early in the day that it was done. Ollie 2 days ago had us, about the Bible and all of this. And then Schefter and Chris Lowe kind of parachute in and are like, oh, breaking news, thing's done. And I was like, these guys beat everyone on this story, and credit to them for beating everyone on this story. All right, the only reason I even really know who Ollie Connolly is we were asked last week about podcasts I listened to, and I said NFL Daily with Greg Rosenthal. Ollie Connolly, who I think is a British dude, has co-hosted that show with Greg before, so I knew who he was. But regardless, all right, go ahead and give us the news, and then we'll discuss.
Yeah, so Belichick is headed to UNC. Not going to take the bait on that. But do you think that there's any case where this turns out to be a good move?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that if he gets North Carolina to the college football playoff, it greatly enhances his legacy, and I think that's on the board. SMU, this year, 2 teams from the ACC made the college football playoff in Clemson and SMU. And so college football's changed now where it's no longer like championship or bust. It's really, or BCS bowl or bust. It's like, hey, can I make the 12-team playoff? Like Colorado had an awesome year, but had they made the playoff, it would have felt like they won a championship. That would have been their championship, really. And so I think Belichick probably looked at what Prime did at Colorado and was like, that was the worst team in college football. The worst. And he got them playoff adjacent in 2 years. North Carolina won 6 games this year. They had the number 3 pick of the draft year. Like, they had Drake May went there. Like, so they're not a blue blood football program like they're a basketball program, but they're not the dregs. They're not Rutgers when Schiano took over. So I don't think it's a guaranteed disaster. I do think this Seth Wickersham article, and Seth is great, that involves massive spin zone from Belichick's people is ludicrous. So people should check out Seth Wickersham's article where he quotes a source close to Bill Belichick, who, again, this is rude of me, but I don't really care. And I used to actually do a podcast with this guy ages ago. But I would bet any amount of money that source close to Bill Belichick is Michael Lombardi, who's never met a microphone he doesn't like and is now going to be Belichick's GM at North Carolina. The source close said that Bill is, quote, disgusted with what the NFL had become, and this is a big FU to the NFL. Okay. Now, we have to be honest and fair about what actually transpired here. And what transpired here is Belichick, after being left out in the cold for a hiring cycle, appears to have done the old high school, maybe even junior high move, which is, hey, did you hear? Sarah's going to break up with you at lunch. And then you go find her in third period. Like, I break up with you. Oh, no. I'm going to do it like like, you didn't break up with me. I broke up with you. It's like, no, but I was going to, no, I broke up with you. I'm dumping you. I'm leaving. I don't like you. I think Bill Belichick had on pretty good authority the NFL was going to pass on him again. And by the way, I think that's a mistake. I think there are teams out there that would have done well to hire Bill Belichick. I don't think that if I were the Bears, I wouldn't hire Belichick because I want a coach who can grow with Caleb for a decade. So it's not a perfect fit everywhere, but if I were the Cowboys, I'd hire Belichick. A team that's already built, has the quarterback in place. I think it's a mistake that no team wanted him. But I think it's very clear no team wanted him. And if any team wanted him, they only wanted him just as the coach. And no matter what Bill said in those Falcons interviews, he clearly is prioritizing being the czar of everything. And at North Carolina, he's going to get 2. And he's just getting the band back together. He's bringing Mike Lombardi back. I assume Josh McDaniels could be involved. And he is going to be the grand poobah of all things football. And that's what's going to happen here. And so it is a stunning and shocking turn of events in that last year we were discussing, Damonza, should the Eagles fire Sirianni just to be able to hire Belichick? And the Eagles were discussing that. ownership was discussing that. And we talked about if the Bills collapsed, should they fire Sean McDermott in order to hire Bill Belichick? And now he is taking the North Carolina job in order to, I think, make sure he has a landing spot. One other piece on this before we get to the blackballing stuff. I know they just erased it, but I actually do want you to ask me about that. But before we get to that, the idea that, Belichick always wanted to go back to college, folks. If he always wanted to go back to college, Alabama was open a year ago. His good friend Nick Saban was leaving. They didn't have a succession in place. That's why they went and got Kalen DeBoer. The idea that he wouldn't have just decided, okay, I'm going to go to college and I'll just take over for my buddy Nick Saban, I think that's foolishness. But go ahead and ask me about the blackballing's too strong, but about that, and we'll.
Yeah, you said that the NFL might consider not giving Belichick a job again. But like, there's going to be teams like the Giants, the Raiders, obviously owned by Tom Brady. Why do you think that he would not be able to get a job again?
So I think that I really do wonder how much poison was spit in other owners' ears by Robert Kraft. And I think that really damaged Bill. We know that Bill interviewed for one job last year, the Falcons job. And it would appear from the reporting I've read that Robert Kraft kind of went out of his way to screw him on that. That Robert Kraft twice talked to, what's the Falcons owner's name? Dude who owns Arthur Blank. Talked to Arthur Blank and did not give rave reviews. Sidebar, shout out Arthur Blank origin story. When Home Depot was first opening, in order to get customers, Arthur Blank stood in the parking lot with tons and tons of $1 bills and would tell people, I'll give you $1 if you just walk in my store just to see what it's like. I like those stories. That guy's like, I got a good product. I gotta get asses in the door.
Yeah,
I'll just give you money. I always, in my brain, I separate owners into two groups: built a business, got rich, and inherited team from dad. And I always assume like different levels of sophistication based on that. So like Robert Kraft built a business, good for him. And again, the guys who inherited team from dad, they might be sharp as well, but I don't assume it. Shad Khan's origin story is one of my favorites. Shad Khan worked for the company. Shad Khan worked for a company that made bumpers, like things on your car, and went to the boss, was like, hey, better way to do this. I figured it out on my own time. And the boss was like, shut up, get back to work. So he quit, started his own bumper company with his own idea, and now he makes all the bumpers. Like if you have like a Toyota or Honda or something, Shad Khan does it. So I'm like, oh, that's super cool. So like, all right, now back to, sorry, that was a sidebar. I just find it interesting. So I do wonder how much Kraft hurt Belichick in this. Because Kraft clearly, we know from that Patriots doc, angry with Bill. Kraft thinks pretty clearly that on the Patriot Dynasty movie poster, Tom Brady is the first name listed, but the second is his and not Bill's. That Robert Kraft, and I don't buy that at all. And so Bill was going to, it would appear, get shut out of this coaching search. So why the Giants thing, I think he's nervous that the Giants might not be making a head coaching change. And if they do, that is, pardon me, full-on rebuild. Like from the studs. The Raiders thing, I don't you know, I don't know that he was confident Tom would say, let's hire him. Or maybe it was that he didn't want to work for Tom, or maybe I don't know. I don't know there. That's an odd dynamic that I don't really even want to speculate on. Also,
Definitely don't want to get
it should be noted
that would stink.
Right, that'd be brutal. That would be brutal. And again, I don't know their relationship, but if it's at all in question, could you imagine, like, you were this guy's, if you're Belichick, you were Brady's boss for 20 years, and then he gets to interview you and kind of rake you over the coals and then be like, denied. Like, no, I mean, that doesn't sound pleasant. And so, and also, by the way, it should be noted, Tom owns 5% of the Raiders. So maybe the Raiders are like, hey, give us all the input you have. And maybe the Raiders are like, okay, we'll take your suggestion. But he obviously doesn't have full control unless they just want him to have it. So it might just be Al Davis's kid, Mark Davis, who's making that decision. And by the way, maybe the Raiders are going to keep Antonio Pierce. Like, I'm pre-firing Antonio Pierce in my head, but he could keep the job. So Bill clearly didn't think he was getting a job. And I think that's really, really fascinating. All right, let's go to some of these follow-ups, Damonza.
So you were saying that Andy Reid comes out a winner in all this? How so? Is he just running himself into the ground?
No, I mean, Andy Reid's going to end up with the wins record. So the wins record right now, Shula's at 347. Belichick's at 333 and never moving past that. Like, that's locked. That's done. Andy's at 296. And that's playoffs and regular season combined. So he'll be at around 300
by the end of
at
the
end of this year. Yeah. Is he going to coach at least 3 more years? Well, he just signed a 5-year, $100 million new deal. He averages 15 combined wins a year since Mahomes has been there. So he'll run Belichick down in a little over, maybe just 2 years or a little over 2 years, and he could run Shula down in a little over 3 years. And when we're talking greatest coach of all time, Shula currently has 2 things really in his favor. More wins, undefeated season. Andy, I think, is going to have in his favor the most wins ever and first ever three-peat, right? Belichick's going to have in his favor the 6 rings, which could be tough for Andy to catch, but Andy after this year might be at 4 with a three-peat. And it's just, the point that I was trying to make on TV was this. I think that right now, if you were to ask Family Feud style 100 NFL fans, who's the greatest football NFL coach ever, I think Bill Belichick gets more than 90 of the votes. I think it's almost a unanimously held opinion. But if Andy runs him down and wins, and or pulls off the three-peat, and then you do have the dichotomy of Bill, 11 seasons without Tom Brady, 8 losing seasons. Andy, I think it's 15 seasons, no, way more than that, 16, 17 seasons without Patrick, 3 losing seasons, a Super Bowl appearance, had a double-digit win season, won a division with 4 different quarterbacks. It starts to at least become a discussion. So that's the Andy Reid piece of it. So, all right, let's keep going with these other. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you had said something about Belichick having the potential to have that Deion Colorado type of effect on the team. Mm-hmm. But obviously Belichick is much cooler. He came in with his kids. I don't think he's.
Oh, Deion's.
You think he's going to? Yeah. Deion's much good. Do you think Belichick is going to be as attractive as an attractive pool to like other 17-year-olds?
So not in the same way. And again, it might not work at all. But I do think that I don't want to close the door to the possibility that a very certain personality type of young person, especially someone that is laser focused on making the NFL, might find Belichick super attractive. And I think that's what they're going to sell. I think what they're going to sell is, we are going to prepare you for professional football. Now, hard-nosed coaching, it's very, very tough to swallow if you can't also sell, and at the end of the year, we get to have a parade. We win so like in New England, everyone knew it was going to be hard. Everyone knew it wasn't a ton of fun, but they did the most winning. Saban at Alabama, everyone knew it was going to be hard. Everyone knew that he was kind of a pain in the ass, but they did the most winning. If UNC is 7-5, that's a tougher sell. Now, you might say Deion was able to sustain, not a great first year at Colorado at all. I think people look at Colorado as, this is going to be insanely fun. We're you know what I mean? We're having a party. We're celebrities. We're also working hard. And here's the other thing, and I have massive respect for what Deion's done. But what supercharged the Colorado rebuild was that Deion's son is the best quarterback in college football, and that Travis Hunter came with him, the best player in college football. Like, Belichick's son is going to be a coordinator on the team, not playing quarterback. So that is like Colorado. I believe in what Deion's done, and I undersold what they were going to be able to do this year, but it would have been a much more gradual build if Shador wasn't this superstar player. All right. This next question's an interesting one.
Yeah, do three-peats matter in overall greatness, in the overall greatness conversations?
They're just trying to make this a Michael Jordan, LeBron thing is the reason they put that in. But there is doing something no one's ever done in the history of the sport matters. Yeah. So, like, nobody's ever done a three-peat in the NFL, and I'm not taking the bait to have a Jordan-LeBron debate here. I am interested in the question above that, Damonza, in the rundown that they just highlighted. That one I think is fascinating.
Any chance Belichick could pull a Jets resignation 2.0 move if the Giants offered him a job?
I mean, that would be so unbelievable. I can't put it at 0, but I will put it at very, very close to 0. So you're not familiar with what they're referencing. So here was Bill Belichick's coaching history, because if you go to Bill Belichick's Wikipedia page, I think it will have listed head coach of the New York Jets. But you'll be like, wait, he was? And the answer is not really. So Bill Belichick was with Bill Parcells with the Giants, won a couple Super Bowls, designed a game plan that shut down one of the greatest offenses ever, the Buffalo Bills, and then in the Super Bowl, and then went on to be the Browns head coach, okay? After he left the Browns to be the head coach, he got back with Parcells in New England, which is where Parcells was for 1 year. Parcells then left New England to be the head coach of the Jets, okay? Parcells then resigns from the Jets. They name Bill Belichick the head coach. And Belichick, when he's on his way into the introductory press conference for him to be the head coach of the Jets, writes down on a napkin, I, Bill Belichick, hereby resign as head coach of the New York Jets. And at the introductory press conference says, I'm actually quitting and winning to New England to become their head coach, their rival. That's how it happened. So wow. That it's one of the most unbelievable videos you'll ever see. Him at the press conference and the reporter's like, what? And so because that's in the repertoire, and keep in mind, when he did that, Damonza, he was not this legend Bill Belichick.
That's what I was
He had
about
been
to
a
say, for him to do
one-time
that
fired head coach, and
to
he
go on
just
that's
believed he could
legendary.
do it. It's legendary. And then he went to their rival, New England, and then, a year and a few games into his tenure there, Drew Bledsoe gets hurt, Tom Brady comes in, and the rest is NFL history. But now, now he's going to run the show at North Carolina. All right, I think that covers all the Belichick stuff. We'll talk more about it with Mangini on the show today. Mangini and I honestly should feel a little snubbed because 8 years ago there was a little listened to 3-person podcast called the Make Me Smarter NFL Podcast, and it was me, Eric Mangini, and Michael Lombardi. And Michael Lombardi now gets to be the GM of North Carolina football, and Eric and I don't as much get a phone call. I can't be your NIL cap expert. You don't call Eric to see if he wants to run the defense. I mean, kind of shitty if you ask me, but whatever. All right, let's talk some of the games this weekend.
We've seen late season head-to-head matchups have a heavy thing to do with the MVP award. Last year it was Lamar Jackson. He took Purdy and McCaffrey out of the running with that win late in the season.
Yep.
So a similar situation is coming up with Goff and Allen. So if you think that Goff and the Lions will win the game, wouldn't it be smart to bet Goff at MVP? His odds are at plus 1,000.
So this is a point I've been trying to make for the last 2 weeks, and I've been making it while holding, 2 plastic tiny hands on television. So understandably, people have kind of missed it. But I think Jared Goff is super live for MVP for this exact reason. That I thought Allen was going to lose to the Rams, and I think they're going to lose to the Lions. And so Allen's had some record-breaking performances, but his overall numbers are not unbelievable the way Lamar's are or Joe Burrow's are, to be honest. It's more of like he's been the story of the season. But it's hard to be the story of the season if the Bills end up being the 3 seed in the AFC behind the Chiefs and the Steelers. Meanwhile, the Lions just keep winning. And now we're going to get a game with Nance and Romo on the call in Detroit, where if Detroit wins and Goff's numbers have been great and they get to 13-1, I think people are going to be like, hey, why aren't we giving Jared Goff more MVP love? So I don't think Jared Goff's the MVP of that team. I think he's played really well, but I think we get a little too fascinated by the quarterbacks, like the running game, the offensive line's the MVP of the team. But I absolutely think narratively, Damonza, Goff takes a huge leap this weekend. And I think Josh, if he loses 2 in a row, even though he was awesome, obviously, in the game against the Rams, the quarterback's wins, folks, are going to start to poke at his case.
And on the other side,
that's where I feel.
If Josh Allen wins, so the winner of this game, you're basically saying it's probably getting MVP.
Well, I don't want to dismiss Saquon, but the other side is correct. If Josh wins this game,
right,
and it's like, okay, they lost to the Rams, but they scored 42 points. They then go beat a Lions team that hasn't lost since week 2 on the longest winning streak in the league. It would put Josh in great MVP position. That part is definitively true. All right, let's get to the next game.
Last year you were riding on the Eagles high until they all fell apart at the end of the season there. But now it seems that there are some things going on inside of the locker room. Do you think that a loss by your Eagles to the Steelers this weekend will put you in dire straits?
Well, I don't know that they can. I don't know that they have the organizational leadership to sustain a bad game this weekend. I think that they would have if they didn't set a fire, then pour kerosene on it, then add other stuff to it to make it just an inferno. And now you've got Kellen Moore the OC having a press conference just telling the world, yes, we are going to try to get A.J. Brown more involved. That is a high priority. Like, guys, your running back is the other guy who can win MVP. You started 1-2. You're now 11-2. Nothing's wrong. And now, big picture, Bomani tweeted this, and Bomani was right. And it sounded mean, and I don't think Damonza is going to like it, which is why I said why I'm putting it on Bomani as the tweeter, because he was, which is ultimately every team Jalen Hurts has ever been on since Channelview High School has found itself limited by his passing. And that's just true. It's why Alabama went to Tua. Oklahoma got the most out of him, but it was part of the reason they got rocked by LSU in the playoff, and Philly finds itself there right now. Jalen Hurts is a really good player whose biggest weakness as a player is his pure passing ability, and it's frustrating his receivers. But the receivers, I feel, made a massive error by not letting that stay in-house. And Brandon Graham made an error by making it clear also, by the way, yeah, Jalen and AJ don't get, they're not friends anymore. Like, huh? And that also shed light on, so what did happen to Philly at the end of last year? Oh, was it that? Was it that the best player on your offense and the quarterback who had been super tight weren't anymore? So I think the Eagles' defense has improved enough. Saquon's playing well enough. They have a great offensive line. They have so many components of an awesome team. They should be able to sustain this, especially against a Steelers team that isn't going to have George Pickens this weekend. But I'd be nervous if I were a Philly fan.
All of a sudden, Sirianni is the least problematic guy on the team.
Sirianni and Saquon. Except for this. It's Sirianni's job to prevent stuff like this from happening.
Yeah.
Howie Roseman picks the players. Vic Fangio calls the defense. Kellen Moore calls the offense. Sirianni's job is game management, not great, and vibes, not great. So, that just is the truth of it. All right, let's go to the next one.
All right, so we talked about the Rams a bunch on Tuesday, so we're going to focus on the 49ers here. So at the beginning of the season, everybody was saying, the 49ers are supposed to come out of the NFC on top, that one seed.
Yeah.
But if they lose
tonight,
they
were the favorite to win the Super Bowl. Favorite over the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, so if they lose tonight, the season's probably over. But we don't talk about them like we talk about the Jets, the Cowboys, and the Bengals. Why is that?
Yep. So it's an interest. Now, the Jets are almost a different story because it's been so cartoonish, and they only have 3 wins, and they just keep blowing games, and that's been just a disaster. I think people want to give the 49ers a pass because of the injuries. And so I look at those 4 teams all differently. So let's just deal with them each before we get to the gambling show. The Jets were never going to be this contender people thought they were going to be. They had a bad coaching situation, an aging, enigmatic, to use the Netflix word, quarterback, overrated talent on offense, a mediocre offensive line. So the Jets, they shouldn't be 3-10, but they were never going to be 10-3. Set them aside. The Cowboys, you saw the writing on the wall coming this offseason. When they didn't, now not to this level, and I picked them to win the division. So I got it wrong. But now when we look back, it's like, oh, they said they were all in. They didn't do anything in free agency. They let all these contract situations drag out. Then the quarterback tears his hamstring. And it's like, oh, okay. Micah got hurt and missed time. DeMarcus Lawrence missed a ton of time. Quarterback tears his hamstring. That's how it happens. The Bengals, it's very, very clear what's going on there. Oh, the defense is just unplayably, unwinnably bad. And we normally want to put it on the stars, the quarterback or whomever, but the quarterback's playing great. Jamar's playing great, and the defense just keeps blowing games for them. Now, the Bengals, to me, is as disappointing as any team in the league because this is likely your last year with Chase and Higgins. Burrow's bounced back from the wrist injury and been unbelievable, and you're going to miss the playoffs. The Niners, it's just been like a slow bleed. They're like Harvey Keitel, and not Harvey Keitel. The guy Harvey Keitel is trying to make feel better in Gosh darn it, I'm going to get this whole thing wrong. In is it Boondock Saints? What's the movie? It's not Boondock Saints. The great... Hold on. This is going to bother me. What's the amazing Quentin Tarantino movie where Harvey Keitel... Oh, no. No, Dogs. Hold on. The Reservoir Dogs. Thank you. The Irish guy in Reservoir Dogs who's actually the undercover cop, who the whole movie is just slowly bleeding to death. That's the Niners this season. It's like just a slow, dramatic death. And there's... at any given moment, it's like, oh, could they be all right? And the answer is no. And you can't be like, oh, well, Purdy just totally went pumpkin mode. Purdy's been fine. He hasn't been good or great, but he hasn't been bad. He's been fine. And at various times, you're like, oh, they'll be okay. They lose to the Chiefs when they win their next two. And then that 3-game losing streak that they just went through, getting rolled by the Packers and the Bills, you're like, oh, their season's over. But then they crush the Bears. And because they're only 6-7 and they're not 4-9 or 5-8, they feel more alive than they actually are. The other reason the Niners, in my opinion, are getting something of a pass is 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, those 5 years. When 4 of the 5 years you're in the conference championship game, 2 of the 5 years you lose a Super Bowl to a dynasty, it's like, okay, you were due for a down year. The reason this down year is devastating for them is they're about to have to go into a bit of a reboot. It seems like they're going to pay Purdy. I wouldn't. They're going to. Kittle is awesome, but getting older. Trent Williams is banged up and old. Debo is unhappy and not as good. Ayuk blew out his knee. McCaffrey, it's a lost season. He's old for a running back. And it's like, oh, this team's going to look way, so much more different next season. I don't know. So I don't know if that's the answer, but that's my diagnosis. Go ahead, Damonza.
On the Bengals, I don't know if we've talked on it at all. Why is nobody calling for the D coordinator's job? Everybody's blaming it on the players, or?
No, I mean, the real reason is because that guy had earned so much credit for overachieving defensively with them. And, I know people get annoyed with me saying this, but everyone associated with the Bengals has gotten more credit for beating the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game than the Rams crew got for 2 weeks later beating the Bengals in the Super Bowl. And when Lou Anarumo, the D coordinator there, beat Mahomes and, kind of tricked him into the worst half of football of his entire career. Then the next year in the AFC Championship game, had the Chiefs on the ropes again. And even this year, it's like, oh, man, they gave the Chiefs trouble. So because of that, they have earned so much credit and equity. But, yeah, in any other spot, the D coordinator wouldn't have made it through the year. And I think there's a good chance to bring him back next year. But it is a fascinating, that 2021 playoff run in 3 straight weeks of Bills-Chiefs 13-second game, then Chiefs-Bengals AFC Championship game, then Rams-Bengals Super Bowl. If we are discussing legend and credit and who earned the most that playoff run, honestly, it would go the biggest winner was Josh Allen and the way we looked at him after that because of how amazing he was in that game and them almost beating the Chiefs. The second biggest winner was Joe Burrow and the Bengals for actually beating the Chiefs. And the bronze medalist was then Matt Stafford and the Rams, who won the Super Bowl. And so it's just like, yeah, of course it should be. And so it's just like it's a really fascinating, but it is because, and again, people get annoyed with me saying this because I'm a Chiefs fan, but all of the NFL storylines right now, just like during the Patriots run, they rotate on the axis of Kansas City. Meaning, can you beat the Chiefs in the playoffs? How do you play against the Chiefs regularly? Your quarterback is having this type of year. Can he be as good as Mahomes? Like, all the NFL storylines rotate around the Chiefs, which is what happens when you're the team in the midst of a dynasty. All right. Red hot gambling show. We give you our picks next. What's right? Welcome back in. What's right with Nick Wright? Time now for the Week 15. That almost makes you sad. Gambling show. Last week, another week in the green. We can show you the picks. Green Bay getting 3.5 at Detroit. They cover. They don't win, but they cover on Thursday night. But that's why that half point matters. The Giants getting 4.5 against New Orleans. They don't win, but they cover. I told you guys that was too many points. They lose 14-11 in that game, have a field goal blocked at the end. What's up, Damonza?
I thought I heard something. I misheard it, but yeah, sorry that happened.
No, you're good. Don't worry about it. I was nervous watching Giants Saints because I'm like, oh no, if the Giants make this field goal, we can go to overtime and lose by 6, but they're the Giants, so they get it blocked. Tennessee minus 3.5 against Jacksonville. That was a shameful loss by the Titans. They're up 3-0, have 3rd and goal from inside the 1. Up 3-0, playing the Jags, 3rd and goal inside the run. They go pass, and it's just awful. And and then late in the game, when they had a chance to steal the win, I still wouldn't have covered. They just Calvin Ridley just runs out of bounds on bad. 3rd and 5.
Yeah, that was.
Instead of getting the first down, they lose. The Rams plus 4.5 against Buffalo. Never a doubt there. They were covering basically the entire game. And the Chiefs minus 3.5 against the Chargers. Tough one. Up 13-0. And then they go in Andy Reid shutdown mode and end up needing a field goal at the end to win, so I don't get my cover. But 3-2, and of course, anytime touchdown Genie Cash, Josh Jacobs, minus 150. Me and Danny gave that to you. All right, first game of the week is the Thursday night game. Go ahead.
You got the Rams plus 3 at San Francisco.
Yeah, so I think the Rams are on a mission right now and recognize they control their own playoff destiny. When they're rolling, they are as dangerous as any team in that conference. The Niners are not nearly as good as they looked last week. They also are not going to have Trent Williams again this week, so that's a problem. They're not going to have another offensive lineman, Ben Barch. That's a problem. They're not going to have their safety, Mustafa, who's, the guy who plays. One of the reasons we've seen so much from him is because Hufanga's out. It has been out. They probably will have Bosa, but they might not have Bosa. Their third-string running back, Isaac Guerrero, they might not have him. Meanwhile, the Rams, the only guys who we know are not playing are Kobe Durant and Tyler Higbee. It's a short week. They're the better team. They need the game. I'm getting points. I don't mind the LA to San Francisco travel, so I like the Rams +3. Brock Purdy's only covered 1 of his last 8 games against teams over 500, and so I like the Rams in this spot. Your thoughts, Damonza?
I love that pick. I think the Rams are going to get him tonight. I think they're going to get them.
Yeah, I might put a little bit on the Rams on the money line, but I certainly like them +3. All right, next.
You got Carolina -2.5 versus Dallas. Look at that, man.
All right,
Carolina
so this is
favorite.
the first time Carolina's been a favorite
I love to see
in
it.
34 games. It's the first time Bryce has been a favorite since Alabama. I think last week's loss ended the Cowboys. I think the way it de facto eliminated from the playoffs, even though they were already really eliminated, it was like, well, if we win out, we're alive. So I think that kills them. I think that Overshawn injury is devastating emotionally and actually because he's one of their best players. Obviously, Micah struggled with that loss massively. Carolina, on the other hand, after beating the Saints and the Giants, played the Chiefs to a field goal at the gun, played the Bucks to overtime, and played the Eagles as close as you can play a team when you lose by 6. Had a perfect play touchdown to go up 1 with 40 seconds left that was dropped. Carolina feels great after their loss. Dallas feels devastated, and I do wonder if the Cowboys pack it in a bit. You then add to the fact that this is one of the rare spots where if you're Carolina, you're like, we definitively have the better quarterback in this game. And so Vegas finally had to adjust. Carolina had covered 5 straight, and this line opened Carolina by 1.5, and it's just moved in their favor. But I think Carolina's going to win. I'd like it more at 1.5 than 2.5, and it might get up to 3 by kickoff. But I think Dallas is done for the season. I think Carolina has been this close to winning, and I think they break through this week. I like Carolina minus the 2.5.
Trust.
I just think they're better than the Cowboys right now.
First time they've been favored in 34 games, though. It was sketchy betting on them. But yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Cooper Rush is not good.
All right, this one is gonna shock America.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so just a nasty game. You got the Jets -3 at Jacksonville.
Betting on the Jets. The first time in Rodgers' tenure that I'm taking the Jets in Nick's picks, and I'm laying points. And the reason for that is the Jags right now, I know they won this past week. I truly believe they're the worst team in the league. I also think as right as I've been about the Jets, they're not 3-14 bad. They might be 5-12 bad, but they're not 3-14. We might get the number 2 pick of the draft bad. I don't think the Jets are going to mail anything in because I think Aaron is still trying to prove he deserves a job somewhere next year. So the Jets had the Dolphins beat and found a way to blow that game.
Yeah.
I think the Jets actually get a fairly easy victory this week. So that I'd lay 4 in this game if I had to. I honestly think this is a 24-9 type of victory for the New York Jets, and they break their what losing streak are they on? 6-game, 7-game losing streak, whatever it is. It's mortifying. The 4-game losing streak. Pardon me. They were 2-1, so they've lost 9 of 10 and 4 in a row. I think that the Jets, they have too many. Garrett Wilson's trying to prove he deserves a new contract. Aaron's trying to prove he deserves his place in this league next year. Jeff Ulbricht's trying to prove he at least can be a D coordinator somewhere again because he's not going to be a head coach. The Jags, meanwhile, are playing out the string with Mac Jones as the quarterback. No one has been more down on the Jets than me this year. I'm 3-1 when I pick against them in Nick's picks. This is my first time picking on them in Nick's picks. I'll take the Jets -3.
Yep. I can't say that I love it. I would never bet on the Jets after. This is something,
Listen, I would never bet on the Jets is a winning gambling philosophy. But this is the rare time that I'm going with it. All right, next.
You got Tampa Bay +3 at the Chargers.
Yeah, I just think that Tampa's better than the Chargers. And the Chargers this year, at some point, they're going to have to beat a team that has a pulse. I brought this up before. I'll bring it up again. Their best win, to me, was the Bengals win. But we then saw the Cowboys almost beat the Bengals. They did beat the Broncos, but that was early Bo Nix when he was really struggling. Their other wins, Raiders, Panthers in week 2, they got Bryce benched, Saints, Browns, Titans, Falcons. And the Falcons game they tried to lose. The Chargers have not looked good the last 3 weeks. The Ravens cracked them. The Falcons gave that game away with the 4 Kirk Cousins. And they obviously just lost to the Chiefs. The Bucs, on the other hand, need every game. They've won 3 in a row. Now, they didn't look overly impressive in that Raider game, but that Chargers offense right now is really struggling. And Tampa knows if they can win this game, they then go Cowboys, Panthers, Saints to end the year, and they're going to win the division. They lose this game, and Atlanta can retake control of the division. So all of that is at the Chargers, meanwhile, are in kind of an odd, now that they lost to the Chiefs and the pipe dream of winning the division is over, they're in an odd motivational space where they need to win one more game the rest of the year to lock up a playoff spot. And after the Bucs game, it's Broncos, then Patriots, Raiders. So the Chargers can't win the division, basically can't fall out of the wild card. They just came off an emotionally devastating defeat to Kansas City. I don't love how they're playing. The Chargers love playing close games, so laying 3 points or getting 3 points is valuable to me anyway. I like how Baker's been playing, even though he is turning the ball over. I'll take Tampa going East Coast to West, which you know I don't love, but going East Coast to West, Tampa getting 3. I just think they can win, and 3 points is too many points. All right, last
Big
one.
Show. You got Detroit -2.5 versus Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, this line should be 4. Buffalo's excellent, but Detroit's better than Buffalo right now, and they're at home. So, like, if they're equivalent teams, it's 2.5. And I think that Detroit is going to be able to run the ball on Buffalo. I also think that teams that have multiple quality receivers can really punish the Bills' secondary. But against Detroit, you have to stop the run first and foremost. So I think if they dedicate those guys to the run, I think Goff can cook a bit. And if they decide to play too high, they'll just run all over you. And so I think Buffalo's really good, but I think Detroit wins this game 30-24, something like that. And there is also, for me personally, Buffalo losing this game is the ideal because then the Chiefs all but lock up the 1 seed. But that's so that's why I'm rooting for Detroit, but I'm picking Detroit because I think that this line should be 3.5 instead of 2.5. That obviously that 3 is the most key number imaginable in this matchup. So I'll take Detroit minus the 2.5. I think Goff plays really well and gets himself firmly in the MVP, top of the MVP conversation. All right, so let's get to the recap of the picks. My 5 picks this week, they're all 3 or 2.5. The Rams catching 3 tonight at San Francisco. Carolina laying 2.5 at home against Dallas. The Jets laying 3 on the road against Jacksonville. Tampa getting 3 at the Chargers. And Detroit laying 2.5 at home in one of the games of the week, one of the games of the year, at home against Buffalo. All right, Damonza, let's get to your teaser. Last week didn't come through for you.
Not a good teaser. I'm sorry for those that trailed me there, but I do think that I was talking to the producers, I think Caleb Williams and that Bears team, I kind of look at it as a rookie team. And if they're playing anybody that has the potential to be an actual team, I don't think 10 points is
They can
enough.
just get blown
out. It
out.
needed to be more, exactly. That needed to be more like 14. I mean, they lost by more than 14. But that would have been, I feel like, the smarter.
So you had Carolina getting 20. I mean, they damn near won the game. But then Chicago getting 11. So this week, I don't know what it is, but you're going back to the 3-team well.
3-team, or
we're 2-team well, I've been told. Yeah,
we're at plus odds this week. It's a 3-team 7.5. I do love the 7.5. I gotta say, Cleveland plus 12 versus Kansas City. We got Cincinnati plus 3 at Tennessee, and we're teasing the Giants up to 24 against Baltimore. All right, the Giants, you're an NFL team. It's a 24-point spread. Come on, guys. And then Cincinnati, obviously, is playing for their life right now. And it's the Titans. And the Chiefs don't beat anybody by more than 4 to 5 points. So I'm feeling good. And honestly, I did think about Kansas City, like with the state that they're in right now. It's, I don't want to say that they're taking their foot off the gas, but what if something weird happens and this is the time that they blow somebody out in I don't know. But it's Cleveland. I trust Cleveland to cover a 12-point spread against the Chiefs. I trust anybody to cover a 12-point spread against the Chiefs.
Okay. I don't mind the Cleveland part of it.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I hate every other piece.
Every other piece?
I really
Bengals plus 3 against the Titans?
All right. So you've been
Giants
so good
plus
at
24?
Not crossing 0. That's first of all. So you were unable to do that with Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's defense, they're liable to lose to anybody. I understand what you're saying. I get it, but I don't love it. And then the Giants,
you're covering you start off with 24 points, Pops. Come on now.
I understand, but the Ravens
coming off a bye and they're pissed.
They're coming off a bye. They're angry, and the Giants are hilariously bad. And the Ravens twice this year have beaten teams by more than 24, and it was the Bills and the Broncos. I don't like this one. I don't like this one.
The Giants just covered for I don't know who last week the Giants just covered for me. I think they were plus 4.5.
Against the Saints. I had that bet too. I understand that. But yes, I did. Playing Darren Rizzi and the Saints. Listen, the grade I'm giving
riding
this
one out.
Okay, I hope you win. But I don't. With the Chiefs game, you're not getting the key numbers. Cincinnati, you're crossing the 0. And you're teasing the worst team in the league. Vegas thinks they're going to lose by 17, and you're like, but they can't lose by 24. I just don't love it. I'm just telling you right now, I'd love to love it, but I don't love it. If I'm going to tease the Giants-Ravens game, I'm teasing it other
Teasing
way.
the Ravens? I can't.
Down to 9.
You know how the Ravens get,
listen,
man. You let teams back into it. It is the Giants.
It's the Giants. I don't know, man. I can't do it. All right, what's the offer this week?
Yeah, so this offer that comes from the game of the week between the Bills and the Lions. Both teams are top 5 in interceptions right now, and the Bills are top 3 in fumble recoveries. So with the MVP on the line, could we see the throwback? This week the offer is Detroit Buffalo game to have over 2.5 turnovers at plus 120. Do you like it?
Detroit Buffalo game to have over 2.5 turnovers at plus 120. I got to turn it down. I apologize.
You bet like plus 700 to 3 turnovers.
No, I mean plus
5.
700 we'd obviously take, but I think it's got to be closer to like 2-1. So I get it that Goff, Goff strip sack or Goff, but Goff's, aside from the 5 interception game, has been pretty good taking care of the football. Josh Allen's been good. Now, I actually think it's going to be a well-played game. I sadly have to turn down the offer. All right, quick break, come back, answer some listener questions, then get out of here. What's right? All right, welcome back in. What's right with Nick Wright? Damonza, the listener Curtis has said he knows what teams I'm picking to face off in the Super Bowl. Who are you picking right now, this moment, to face off in the Super Bowl?
I've got to be loyal and say Ravens. Ravens, Detroit. I initially said that it was going to be Chiefs, Eagles again. But with the stuff that's going on with the Eagles right now, I don't know. I think that but I'd go Lions. I'd go Lions Chiefs if we're being real.
Right. If you had to actually put money on it, you'd go Lions Chiefs, which yes. I understand. That makes sense. All right, you can now go back to him. Sorry, since that was for you, I wanted to ask it.
Yeah. So L Hayes, hey Nick, how's the triathlon training coming?
It's going pretty good. I was on the bike this morning. Again, I'm leaning maybe to making it a duathlon instead of triathlon because I don't know that I want to train the swimming that much. I just don't know how much I would enjoy that, but it's going good. Feel like I'm in the best shape of my life right now. So yeah, I appreciate you asking. All right, next.
Alex, hey Nick and Damonza, with the rules changing this year for comeback player of the year, do you think Russell Wilson deserves to be the front runner winner of the award?
So I think the rule change hurt Russell Wilson. Because I think they clarified it, because they didn't like that last year Joe Flacco won it over DeMar Hamlin because it was like, well, he just came back from sucking. So they tweaked it to where it's like you need to be coming back from like an injury or something like that. So I think that Russell Wilson's like, what's he coming back from? So I think it's wide open because Kirk might get benched. Aaron's been awful. Like, I don't know who even the front runner would be. Next.
Grayson, if Bills lose, should Lamar be MVP? He beats Allen in literally every single stat and would only have one less win, but with a tougher schedule.
And when they played head to head,
I was going to say we beat the Bills this year too.
Yeah, but by 35-10. Yeah. He has an argument. And this is why I think the narrative's going to shift to Goff, because Lamar has a pretty good argument versus Josh Allen if they fall to 10-4, not nearly as good of an argument against Goff. And right now Allen's running away with it. So that's one of the reasons I think Goff could I think Goff could end up stealing this award. All right, next.
Horton. Caitlin Clark was voted Times Athlete of the Year. Is she in the top 5 for most influential U.S. athletes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely no question about it. Also, did you see this Caitlin Clark quote? So Caitlin Clark did an interview with Time, and she did a good job, I thought, kind of advocating for black women in the sport and doing a lot of things people had said she should have done earlier, but it was good to see her do it. She had another quote that didn't get as much attention, but is legit hilarious because she unintentionally absolutely napalms the girls she played against in college. I'm going to read you this quote.
Yeah.
Professional players and professional coaches, this is no disrespect to college women's basketball, are a lot smarter. I love women's college basketball. But if you go back and watch the way people guarded me in college, it's almost like concerning. They didn't double me. They didn't trap me. They weren't physical. And it's hard. It's college. A lot of these women will never go on to play another basketball game in their life. They don't have the IQ of understanding how the game works. So I completely understand it. And it's no disrespect at all. They don't have the IQ. You have to simplify it for girls at that age.
Jeez.
Just absolutely
Not trying to be
napalms.
rude, but
I'm not trying to be rude, but these ladies were dumb and are not going to be playing basketball much longer.
IQ's not high enough. All that.
Absolutely torches them. Oh my God, it was unbelievable. Speaking of women's college basketball, me and your sisters and your mom went to the doubleheader at Barclays, and Paige Beckers, who's either the best or the second best player in the sport, gave Deanna a fist bump, and she was over the moon about it.
Deanna's just living a life, man. Deanna's just...
I know.
She's just
Deanna is living quite the life. And by the way, one women's college basketball note, I understand UCLA is the number 1 team in the country. Oh, you should... Hold on a second here. That's a good idea, Nick. UCLA women's basketball. When does UCLA play USC? So they final game of the regular season. They're at USC February 13th and they host USC March 1st. If you have any interest, Damonza, I'll get you good tickets to either of those games.
I'd love to.
So
when is the Super Bowl this year? What day does it fall on?
I think the 7th.
Okay.
Maybe the 9th. I should know. It's February 9th.
Okay.
So, but
I'd love that.
So UCLA is the number 1 team in the country. The reason I even thought of it is because I watched UConn and I'm like, listen, I haven't watched UCLA women's yet this year. I don't know how any team is possibly better than UConn. UConn was just so unbelievable immediately. I watched the Iowa-Tennessee game before. That game was awesome. UConn came out, looked like they were playing different sports. See, UCLA, the number 1
Juju exists.
And then Juju against USC, for USC would be unbelievable. So that should be a great matchup. That'd be really, really good. So it's either February 13th at USC or March 1st against UCLA. All right, great show, Damonza. Good job by you. I'll see everyone on TV. We'll have our holiday schedule announcements coming next week. But in the meantime, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you guys on First Things First in a few hours. What's right? Hey, thanks for watching. If you're still here, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes. After you've done that, one more favor, go to your favorite audio platform of choice and subscribe there as well. Don't forget, we're live every Tuesday and Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern-ish. 10:35, 10:40. It sometimes changes, but that's why you hit the bell. You hit the bell so you're notified. You subscribe so we can get to 200,000 followers. We're right around 150,000. We'd love to get to 200,000, get Damonza another plaque. So like, subscribe, rate, send a rating too. Do all that cool stuff. Thanks, guys.